Good morning, everyone. The prayer today will be offered by the amazing lady from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Assume a posture, colleagues, that is comfortable for contemplation. May we listen to one another in openness and mercy. May we listen to plants and animals in wonder and respect. May we listen to our own hearts in love and forgiveness. May we listen to God in quietness and awe. And in this listening, which is boundless in its beauty, may we find the wisdom to cooperate with a healing spirit, a divine spirit, who beckons us into peace and community and creativity. We do not ask for a perfect world in this moment, but we do ask for a better world. Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
We'll give a minute for people to come in. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
There being 127 members present, the House is now in session.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker. Yes, my button is not working.
Oh, that's a problem.
It's terrible. I'm sure you can handle it.
We can handle it. If only all the problems were that way.
I agree.
Thank you. Good morning.
Madam Speaker, I'm not sure that mine did either.
Oh,
so
well.
If you could check
Well, can we make sure their buttons are working? We're making a note. Anyone else? All right. So I have, there being now 125 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, February 19th, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the journal.
So order petitions, memorials, and other papers. So we have two resolutions today, and we're going to start with the delegate from Montgomery County. Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
This morning we are joined by women of the Maryland State Coalition of the National Council of Negro Women. We have Representatives Crystal Lee, President, and Selena Singleton, Chair of Social Action. The coalition unites local groups across Maryland to empower women of African descent to lead, advocate, and uplift their families and communities. The National Council of Negro Women was founded in 1935 by Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune as an alliance of women organizations to harness their collective strength. Today, NCNW is comprised of 500 campus groups, 38 national affiliate organizations, including sororities and professional groups, and hundreds of community-based sections like the Maryland Coalition. They focus on mentoring youth, STEM education, health equity, financial literacy, social justice, entrepreneurship to achieve economic stability in communities of color. NCNW connects 3 million women and men associates in its mission, including members of this chamber. Any members of NCNW, please stand and be recognized. Today, the Maryland Coalition is being hosted this morning by Delegate Scott Phillips and myself, Delegate Pam Queen.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Maryland Coalition of NCNW, National Council of Negro Women, in recognition of your advocacy and continuing work to collectively promote economic empowerment, education, health equity, and social justice throughout Maryland. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 26th day of February 2026.
The next resolution will be presented again from the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use delegate names?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, the Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery, located in Legislative District 14, represented by myself, Delegate Mary Q. North, Delegate Ann Kaiser, and Delegate Pam Queen, as well as our guest, Senator Craig Zucker, in Montgomery County, was co-founded in 1988 by Dr. Winston Anderson, a Howard University professor and department chair. The purpose was to preserve the rich history of African Americans in Montgomery County, specifically the free black settlement in Sandy Spring. The Freedmen's Village is where enslaved people were freed by Quakers in 1790 and then started their own community. The site features indoor, outdoor, weathered, and natural exhibits, including the Door of No Return display. The African Art Gallery showcases items like a Yoruba chair, replica of Nelson Mandela's childhood home, and various personal artifacts from local African American families. The museum provides an honest and often emotional perspective of the Black experience, covering 400 years of history, from the Middle Passage with a replica of the slave ship's interior, the colonial era with an 1800s sharecropper cabin, and the Underground Railroad Trail to 20th century historical artifacts. The Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery is a vital community space for education, reconciliation, and preserving the local heritage of descendants of Freedmen's Village. We are honored today to have two representatives with ties to the Sandy Springs community and members of the Executive Board of the Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery, Dr. Troy Buddy, the Executive Board Co-Director, and Ms. Natalie Thomas, the Executive Board Secretary. Please welcome them.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery in recognition of highlighting and preserving the history of African American families and free black settlements in Montgomery County, Maryland. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 26th day of February 2026.
Congratulations to all and those that are in the balcony. Introduction of House bills. The clerk will read the bills and their committee assignments.
House Bill 1618, Delegate Chi, House Rules. House Bill 1619, Delegate Wells, House Rules.
The clerk will read the bond initiatives and the committee assignment.
Introductory House Bond Initiatives number 53, February 26, 2026. Appropriations.
Quorum call.
Madam Speaker,
The clerk will call the roll. There being 133 members present, the House is still in session. House third reading calendar number 9. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 261, State Procurement, Competitive Proof of Concept Procurement.
House Bill number 261 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 261,
Madam Speaker.
having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the
Speaker.
next bill. Oh, Majority Leader?
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'm sorry.
Just a point of procedure from the clerks as we begin a wall of third reader votes here. Few reminders. Number 1, if you are in your seat, you must vote. Number 2, if you want to change your vote, wait until the end of the calendar. You stand up to be recognized and state the bill number and what you are changing your vote to. Please make sure to fill out your vote change form and send it up to the clerks here. Very important, if you think your button was not working and your vote was not recorded, you must stand immediately at your seat and say, Madam Speaker. Remain standing until you have been recognized. You cannot change not voting to a vote. Lastly, you have to be on the floor in order to cast your vote. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the most important one, are you listening? Is that Madam Speaker must look up and pay attention. All right. Thank you. So the clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 263, Election Law, Early Voting Centers, Bus Stops.
House Bill 263 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? I did look up. If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 107 votes in the affirmative and 27 votes in the negative, House Bill number 263, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 276, State Emergency Medical Services Board Public Access Automated External Defibrillator Program, revisions.
House Bill 276 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the floor leader would indulge a question or two before we vote, I would appreciate it. I'm not sure where they
Floor
are.
leaders right here to the right.
Yeah, I'm happy to rise
Thank you.
I'm happy
my
to
friend.
rise metaphorically.
Oh, I didn't. Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't know where I was coming from there. This bill, sometimes it affects restaurants, retail establishments, commercial establishments. Did the Restaurant Association have any position on the bill?
Yes, they were favorable with amendments, and I believe their amendments were incorporated.
And what about the Maryland retailers? Every once in a while, I take their opinion. Not always, though.
We wonder.
Well,
why.
if you want to be well treated, you'll take their opinion. Anyway, my point is, yes, their amendments were incorporated also.
So the business communities that were affected by the bill had some amendments. The committee took them, and now they believe that the bill is appropriate.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the information.
Those were good questions. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Madam Speaker,
Has everybody recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? The clerk would take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative and 11 votes in the negative, House Bill number 276, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 284, Public Safety, Licensed Firearm Dealers Notification Regarding Compromising Events.
House Bill 284 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Hartford County.
Sure, I just have a quick question for the floor leader.
The floor leader.
Sure. Good morning.
What was Maryland Shall Issue's position on this bill?
They are now fine with the bill, and that was the reason for some of the amendments that we had with the bill. Initially, they were in opposition with the bill, but we were able to work everything out, and there is now peace in the Middle East, and so they are okay with the bill.
So you're saying the leading Second Amendment advocacy group in the state of Maryland is fine with this bill?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. All right. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Oh, call the roll. Sorry.
Madam Speaker.
You see, I get it wrong. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. All right. There being 118 votes in the affirmative and 16 votes in the negative, House Bill number 284, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 319, County Boards of Education, Student Transportation, Sunset Repeal and Study.
House Bill 319 is on third reader and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 319, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 322, Maryland Healthcare Commission membership.
House Bill 322 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 322, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 442, Professional Liability Insurance Coverage, Nursing Homes, Assisted Living Facilities, Nurse Midwives, and Licensed Certified Midwives, Disclosure, Nayeli Rose Lewis Act of 2026.
House Bill 442 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded the vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 422, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading, calendar number 10. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 102, Education, Dependent Children of Active Service Members, Advanced Enrollment Procedures.
House Bill 102 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 102, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 174, Motor Vehicles and Marine Vessels, Transfer on Death Designations.
House Bill number 174 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 174, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 192, Maryland Higher Education Commission, Religious Educational Institutions, Certificate of Approval.
House Bill number 192 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 134, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 227, Maryland Environmental Service, Authorizations and Requirements, Alterations.
House Bill 227 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, House Bill number 227, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 232, Maryland Military Department, National Guard Tuition Assistance.
House Bill 232 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 232, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 260, Public Financing Act, Fair Campaign Financing Fund Distributions.
House Bill 260 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 33 votes in the negative, House Bill number 260, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 404, Natural Resources, State Parks Terminology.
Thank you. House Bill 404 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 404, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading, calendar number 11. Oh. Vote change?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's get the party started.
All right.
House Bill 284, I'd like to change my vote to red.
Make sure that you give us the yellow slip. I always wanted to say that. Just kidding. Go ahead. House third reading, calendar number 11. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 342, Forestry Licenses, Applicant Qualifications, Alterations.
House Bill 342 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 342, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 372, Hospitals, Emergency Pregnancy-Related Medical Conditions, Procedures.
House Bill 372 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, House Bill 372, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 373, State Board of Dental Examiners, Disciplinary Action and Unannounced Inspections.
House Bill 373 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 373, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 380, State Board of Examiners and Optometry, examination requirements and time period for inactive status.
House Bill 380 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 380, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker?
Yes.
My button wasn't working. Can I be recorded in the green?
All right.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 387, Commission Public Art, Artist Rights and Registration of Art.
House Bill 387 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 5 votes in the negative, House Bill number 387, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 393, Health Insurance Scalp Cooling Systems Required Coverage.
House Bill number 393
Madam
is on
Speaker.
recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is my 8th year down here, and in my history, once or twice I've stood up to hit the red button and speak. This is the first time I've ever done it and have honestly anguished and lost sleep over a bill. And the reason is, obviously the bill sponsor is one of my seatmates and somebody that I've come to love and adore, and I love her tenacity, her boldness, and just her work ethic is unbelievable to me. And so when I saw this bill and we started discussing, we discussed it a lot, and I was like, well, I could do the easy thing and vote yes, but not live up to what I know my principles are. You know, we throw around the word integrity a lot. It comes from the word integer, meaning whole, united, undivided, meaning when you vote, you should live up to a certain principle, and you should stick to those principles. And sometimes there's a crap decision and there's a crappier decision. This is one for me. And I'm going to tell you why. Or I could just vote no. And I would have done that the other day, but then somebody stood up and said, if you vote no, you're against people with cancer. And I couldn't let that stand because that's not true. In 1982, and stick with me, I remember being at a doubleheader Oriole game. The Orioles were behind the Milwaukee Brewers by 3 games with 4 games to play against the Brewers. That Friday night was a doubleheader. I was lucky enough to go with my dad and my grandfather. John Shelby threw somebody out from center field, and I know my Baltimore City friend knows that. Won both games. But that night, I remember having to go to the bathroom 100 times and feeling like crap. I was so excited, but I felt like crap. Got home, told my mom. On Monday, they took me to the doctors and said, we're going to run some tests. We can't figure out what's going on. But then they started asking me questions about do I have a girlfriend? Am I depressed? And I'm like, what is this about? My parents thought it was over my mental well-being, which was fine, but for parenting 101, they usually got like a C-. But I felt so bad for the next 2 or 3 days that I thought I was going to die. I remember telling my mom, hey, it's been a good couple years. Give away my Stretch Armstrong. Give away my Evel Knievel. I'm just going to die, and they can't figure it out. Well, they finally got me to a doctor, and he said, your son's blood sugar is 860. You need to take him to the emergency room right now. Found out I was a type 1 diabetic, didn't know much about it. We've come a long way. Back then, in order to check your blood sugar, they actually had to put that big needle in your veins and take it out 16, 17 times every day while you're there. And they start telling you all the things you can and can't do. You can't be you can't be a police officer. You can't go in the military. You can't be a pilot. Can't eat sugar. And you find out pretty quickly that first Halloween sucks. But you learn to embrace the suck. It's something I learned, and I remember asking, how long until there's a cure? They said 10 or 15 years. That was 40 years ago. Chris Rock said it best. There's no money in the cure, money's in the treatment. And treatment's become much, much better. But through the years, I've paid so much money out of pocket, and you start to learn who other type 1 diabetics is. Not my favorite Supreme Court judge, but Sotomayor, been a type 1 diabetic since she was 7, and we connect on a lot of things she wrote in her book. Brett Michaels from Poison, type 1 diabetic. Because you start to look for people to give you motivation because you're going through a bunch of crap. It sucks. I wear a pump in my pocket. My minority leader didn't even know until I showed him the other day. I was like, maybe you should ask me a question every once in a while. But it's tough. And I say that because Lou Holtz once said, if you think your life is tough, look to your left, look to your right, look in front of you, and look behind you. There's 10 people who have it a lot worse than you do. And I've always tried to live by that philosophy. I never wanted to tell anybody I was a diabetic. I didn't tell girlfriends for a long time. Because back then I was just taking a shot, and you're embarrassed by it, but you learn to just evolve and get better at it, but you also learn, and I know that my friends in HGO know this, it's very expensive, and you're continually paying things out of your pocket. When I turned 28 years old, I suddenly couldn't see out of my left eye. I went to the doctors, they said, we have to do laser surgery on both your eyes right now. They do. Then you go through vitrectomy, where they take out stuff. Then I lost the retina in my left eye, and it came down. I paid for every one of those surgeries out of pocket. That had nothing to do with insurance. But then, when I got this fake left eye, CT loves it. I'm sorry. You have to pay for that out of cash. Insurance doesn't cover it. It's kind of cool when they do it. They're looking at one eye and they're painting the other. I asked for a Clemson Tiger in the left part. He said, sure, another $2,000. I'm like, it's all right. It just, everybody's going through stuff, and we always want to help. I know. My problem with saying we got to force insurance to do it, well, we're already one of the highest mandated insurance states in the country. And I know this is a very important procedure for people, but it's still cosmetic, just like my left eye is. My real eye's behind there, in case you want to know. But it's one of these things where sometimes in life, it's not always black or white. And when we give it over to the insurance to say, no, they're going to pay it. If there's one thing I can guarantee you, insurance companies never eat the cost. We do. And it gets higher and higher, and that's why our insurance rates are so expensive. I hope that somehow many of these ladies that are going through this have the means to pay for their own and not have to pay for it. I have one luxury in this state house. I can vote no for something and hope you all vote yes. But in my heart, if I want to live with integrity, I have to vote no, because I understand there's a lot more people like me that continue to pay things out of pockets to $5,000 to $10,000 a year if you're a type 1 diabetic, between strips and everything else you got to pay for that insurance doesn't pay for. But I got to see the bigger picture. I love my seatmate, I do. And I wish I didn't have to stand up here and say this, but I have to stand up and explain why I'm going to put a no on the board. And that's just for me. You do what your heart tells you to do. With that, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing, listen, recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
First of all, I was the floor leader on this the other day, and I gave out some erroneous information. I sometimes get my CARE and my CAIDS mixed up. This is not Medicaid expansion. Medicaid is actually not paying for this service. There is a Medicare benefit that pays up to $1,850 for up to 7 scalp treatment services. What this bill is doing is providing the commercial payers, HMOs, and large group practices to payers to pay for this service. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear that it is not Medicaid expansion. But I'm going to be green on this vote. Breast cancer sucks. And I say that because I was once the spouse of a stage 4 breast cancer survivor. And I have vivid, horrific memories of standing in the shower with a razor and shaving the last strands of hair off of her head. I remember her looking in the mirror, collapsing to the floor in tears and vomiting. Because not only did breast cancer mutilate her, it took away her most beautiful head of hair that was full and lavish and was just absolutely shocking to her. So as you can see, it's still a horrible memory that affects me today. Unfortunately, scalp cooling wasn't available 16 years ago, but boy, I wish it was. I actually just saw my former spouse up here the other day, and that full head of hair was back. But that was absolutely horrific. So colleagues, my green vote today is for my former wife, Lynn Diamond, and to all breast cancer survivors and those that may be infected with breast cancer in the future. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the young lady from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Usually when I get up, I have prepared remarks because I like to think about things. So this is just me talking. I'm going to be a green vote on this bill. I had the honor of following the good delegates hearing last year on this bill. And just like then, now, it's very hard for me to control my emotions about it. Listening to those women's stories was heartbreaking. It's not a story. It's their lived experience. And until you've walked in someone's shoes about their lived experiences, that's why they come down here, to tell us about that. And that's why we make these hard votes and these hard decisions. That's our role, is to fight for them. When my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had to take 2 years off of work to walk that journey with her and my dad. They give up so much when they are going through any kind of cancer treatment. They give up their work, their life. They give up their health because the cancer attacks their body, as does the treatment. You're worried about losing them. You don't know what the next step is. And for most women, yes, they worry about losing their hair. It is one of the most devastating things for women to go through. You've lost your breast, and then you lose your hair. That has become part, whether you like it or not, it's part of your identity, and it's part of who you are. We were able to get her a wig, but it's not the same. And I'm so proud of her strength of going through that battle, but I will never forget leaving one of her surgeries. She was so out of it that my dad just held her and talked to her the whole way home, over an hour and a half from Mercy Hospital. So he didn't care about her hair, but he loved her so much that he wanted everything for her. And if this treatment had been around there, it could have at least preserved some dignity for her. She was still trying to work. She was a bank manager. She is a bank manager. Was a bank manager because she's retired, not because anything, not because of. Let me give you the end of that story. She's okay. But she was still trying to work and function and do her job, as many of us do down here. So I am a yes vote on this bill for her, for our family, and she is doing amazing now, and she's here to see my grandbaby and all the other grandchildren, and she adds so much to our lives. And for that, and for all the women that face this battle, I am a green vote today.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really appreciate the members of this body sharing their stories today. But I'd like to start with a rhetorical question. Is there any condition that doesn't deserve coverage? And for me, the answer is no. I really wish that every person with any ailment had coverage so that they can be with us, they can be as healthy as possible. But I'd like to provide an analogy that I think is very germane to this bill. And I'd like to think about our health care costs and compare that to our energy costs. Over the last several years, maybe decades, we've come to this floor and we've passed rules and mandates and requirements that have altered and shifted the way we provide energy in this state. And people right now are asking us, why can't I afford the basic necessity of energy? And they're asking, how did we get here? Well, it's because instead of creating a market, we've sat here on this floor and made mandates that have led us to less availability and higher prices. This bill is an insurance mandate. And I would ask you to consider, how does it serve our people if we continue to pass laws that make the coverage unaffordable for this service or the actual care for the cancer itself and every other condition? Passing a bill on this floor does not create more availability of services. Warning.
It's okay. It happens. Don't
happens.
stress. Give him 1 second.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Passing a law on this floor does not create more availability, and it does not decrease costs. What we're doing in passing bills like this, although they sound good and it feels great, is we're making it unaffordable for people to have these policies that cover all ailments. And that's been the direction we've gone for at least 20 or 30 years. When I think about bills like this, I think about my kids. You know, I think about the pages as they walk across the floor. Will those young people ever be able to afford insurance in the state? And I'm not sure that that's in the cards for them. So although my heart breaks for these people, I think we have to think about coverage for all ailments, for all people, and passing mandates like this makes that future a non-future. That's why I'll be a no today.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wasn't going to get up, but I was one of those people that lost their hair, all of my hair. In 2022, it's not a feel-good. It's all about reality. And I'm so glad that you brought this bill, because I would be voting yes on this bill in reference to people like me and others that wanted dignity when they were so sick and they couldn't lift their head. So thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Carroll County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I could not be as eloquent as those that have gone before me. I'm going to be a yes today. For Jody, Mary, Dawn, Ginger, Denise, and I can't even think of all the other names of loved ones, friends, and dear people who've gone through this. We need to do this. It's the right thing to do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, 45 years ago, I went through clinical pastoral education, and I was a chaplain assigned to a hospital. And my very first patient that I had to do a verbatim on, I've never forgotten her name, Trina Breckenridge. Trina had a double mastectomy that day. When I began to talk to her, the first thing out of her mouth was, "I'm no longer a woman." My response to her was, "You're very much of a woman, even before the surgery." She said, "I'm going to lose every bit of my hair." It was a church lady, and she had very long, beautiful hair. And Jen, just recently, I have a very dear friend. I was their best man in their wedding. Her name is Vicky, and she's suffering today with cancer. And again, beautiful head of hair. And she lost every bit of it. My former boss at a car lot, his wife was a beautiful, always beautiful head of hair. My own wife, my redhead, a beautiful head of hair. I cannot imagine women that love their hair, and that's, their beauty is in their hair, as well as their hearts. I believe that we need an extra tool in the toolbox, whatever they could do to prevent such a tragedy. I'm a green vote and proudly stand on this vote. God bless you all.
Thank you. The Vice Chair of the Health Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to stand up because I'm responsible to a large degree in guiding people on insurance issues. And I frequently speak about what we do here on the floor and how it affects our premiums. But I want to remind you, remind the body that because we take that responsibility very seriously, we have some of the lowest insurance rates in the country. We have and we have one of the highest coverage rates in the country because we approach this very responsibly. We wanted to pass this bill last year because we were moved by the stories such as we've heard on the floor today, and I appreciate very much people sharing these heartfelt stories. But we did what we were supposed to do, and we sent it for an actuarial study to see how much it would actually cost to provide this service. It's 1 cent per month per member for commercial insurance payers. We felt that this benefit was worth 12 cents a year for everyone who's paying for commercial insurance. So I would ask for you to support this bill for the people and for us doing the right thing. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I don't know of anyone that cancer hasn't touched, and I'm going to be agreeing on this bill. I'm going to be agreeing on this bill, and the reason why is because I think it affects everyone. But truly, I was on Facebook the other day after this bill came before us, and happened to see a lady, a friend of mine, that had the cap on, the cooling cap, and I told her that I had just voted, in favor of this bill, and she, it was really neat to see. She's in the hospital right now, and she said she was crying because of what I'm standing up for. That's the real value of what we do here. And to me, if you can give someone just an ounce of dignity or an ounce of comfort while they're going through this, I don't know how you could be anything but agreeing on this. Thank you.
House Bill number 393 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to
welcome.
explain my vote, also want to give love and respect to my mother, who, when I was in 4th grade, went through breast cancer and lost her magnificent fro. It just only makes sense that there's a green vote up there for every member of this chamber. So to my mother, Martha Ruff, God bless you, and a green vote for that very reason.
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 393, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. I want. Thank you, everyone, for a civil discussion, and thank you for sharing your stories. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 439, Office of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, and Maryland Advisory Council on Deaf and Hard of Hearing renaming.
House Bill 439 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 136, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. House third reading calendar number 12. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 6, Public Institutions of Higher Education, Pregnant and Parenting Students, Plan and Reporting.
House Bill 6 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, House Bill number 6, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 30, Public Safety, Department of State Police, Police-Initiated Towing Alterations.
House Bill 30 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 30, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 35, Local Government, Regulatory Powers, Regulation of Invasive Trees.
House Bill number 35 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 120 votes in the affirmative and 8 votes in the negative, House Bill number 35, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 95, Family Law Marriage License Applications, Appearance and Affidavits.
House Bill number 95 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 95, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 325, Education, Professional Standards, and Teacher Education Board Composition.
House Bill number 325 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call. Will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. That was close. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 325, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 333, General Assembly Vacancy, Political Parties Central Committee Procedures.
House Bill number 333 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the young lady from Hartford County. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I was going to tell you the floor system was being funky, but it's just remedied itself, so I'll pass it over to my other colleague.
Thank you. Recognizing the other gentleman from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Just want to speak on why I'm voting green in this bill. So the bill sponsor several years ago brought me on this bill as the number 2. And the purpose of that was to make sure that the Republican Party had a voice in this process. And I worked very closely with Maryland GOP Chairman Harris, wife of Congressman Andy Harris, and getting our amendments to make sure that this didn't violate our policies. The Republican Party is well represented on this bill. We got those amendments on board. There is no opposition from the Maryland Republican Party, and I'll be voting green on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. All right. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 122 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 333, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 422, Public Health, Expedited Partner Therapy, Bacterial Vaginosis, and Licensed Certified Midwives.
House Bill 422 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 422, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker, vote change.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to change my vote on House Bill 342 to yes. Thank you.
Recognizing, the gentleman from Anne Arundel first. How's that?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on HB 342, the red. I'm sorry, green. Green.
All right. The gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 342 to green.
Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change HB 342 to green.
Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change HB 284 to red.
Any other vote change? All right. All right, we have now Special Order Calendar, House Bill 1341. And I would like to, once we pull it up, recognizing the maker of the motion, the delegate from Carroll County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the floor leader talking with me yesterday. After speaking with my local law enforcement, I do feel the bill's unnecessary for an if. However, I do not have any further amendments. I'll just be voting no, and I appreciate the conversation. Have a great day. Thanks.
And thank you for having the conversation. We really appreciate it. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Anyone in the back? Okay. Thank you. The clerk will call the roll. There being 136 members present, the House is still in session. House third reading calendar number 13. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 445, Maryland Medical Assistance Program and Health Insurance Coverage for Orthesis and Prosthesis, so everybody can move act.
House Bill 445 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 9 votes in the negative, House Bill number 445, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 498, Certificate of Need, Intermediate Health Care Facilities.
House Bill 498 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 498, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 529, Code Revision Health Maryland Medical Assistance Program.
House Bill 529 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 529, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 599, Health, Licensure of Hospitals, Ownership Requirements.
House Bill 599 is on third reading and final passage.
Madam Speaker.
Yes. 1 second. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a couple questions for the floor leader.
Will the floor leader please rise? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Yes, sir.
welcome.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I see we've had this bill for a number of years. Can you just help bring me to speed on exactly what it does?
This bill requires that any entity that wants to be a hospital in Maryland must be a nonprofit organization.
So can you help explain that a little bit deeper? Any hospital,
Any
new hospital.
Right now, all hospitals in Maryland are nonprofit hospitals. And over the years, we've had the luxury of none of our hospitals closing because we take care and make sure that they have the funding they need to operate. But what's most important about being a nonprofit hospital is since they don't pay taxes, they are tax exempt, they must, in order to qualify for that tax exemption, they must comply with the rules, the federal laws around what they will provide for the community. And I want to read for you what the Maryland Hospital Association said on this bill. Hospitals offer a variety of community benefits, including support for food, safe housing, and education, as well as patient financial assistance and charity care, community health improvement services, health professional education, and research. Those are not part of the mission of for-profit hospitals.
I appreciate you explaining that. I don't see any unfavorable testimony. I do remember this kind of came up in conversation when Baltimore City was discussing some tax breaks and who was paying taxes, who wasn't paying taxes. So.
And I guess I'm getting clarification that this is actually the first time we've had this bill.
First time we've had the bill. Okay. All right. Thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Any other debate? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, House Bill number 599, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1084, Montgomery County, County Board of Education, School Operation Requirements, MC 14-26.
House Bill 1084 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1084, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote on House Bill 498 to red, please.
Recognizing the young lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change House Bill 342 to yes, please.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Vote change HB 342 to green, please.
Thank you. Any other changes? All right, thank you. House third reading, calendar number 14. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 623, Education Purple Star Program, Purple Star Schools Program, and Purple Star Colleges Program.
House Bill 623 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 623, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 672, Public Health, Maryland Pediatric Cancer Fund, entities eligible for grants.
House Bill 672 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 672, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 747, Oversight Committee on Quality of Care in Nursing Homes and Assisted Living Facilities membership.
House Bill 747 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 vote in the negative, House Bill number 747, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 813, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, coverage for the treatment of obesity authorization.
House Bill 813 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 110 votes in the affirmative and 26 votes in the negative, House Bill number 813, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 882, Consumer Health Information Termination Date and Mandatory Funding for the State's Consumer Health Information Hub, repeal.
House Bill 882 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 38 votes in the negative, House Bill number 882, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading, calendar number 15. The clerk will read the bill.
Madam Chair.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, ma'am. Vote change on House Bill 284 to red, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 452, State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners, grounds for disciplinary action restrictions.
House Bill 452 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 452, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 494, Health Insurance Primary Care Investment Targets, Reimbursement, and Reporting.
House Bill 494 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, House Bill number 494, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 535, Food Establishments, Cottage Food Businesses, Maximum Annual Revenue.
House Bill 535 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 535, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 554, General Assembly, Legislative Committees, Renaming and Legislative Policy Committee Membership.
House Bill 554 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, which I think is going to change soon, House Bill number 554, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Madam Speaker, my button did not work. I'm agreeing.
Thank you. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 593, Criminal Law Interference with Critical Infrastructure or Public Safety Answering Point.
House Bill 593 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 593, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Vote change? Recognizing the young lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First time for everything.
Yes.
Vote change on HB 494 to green. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I flew a little too close to the sun on the very excellent House Bill 554, and I'd like to change my vote to green.
Wonderful. Any other vote changes? All right. All right. House, third reading calendar number 16. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 38, Financial Institutions, Licensing of Affiliated Insurance Producer Mortgage Loan Originators, Alterations.
House Bill number 38 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 38, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 85, Corporations and Associations, Cooperative Limited Equity Housing Corporations Establishment.
House Bill number 85 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 103 votes in the affirmative and 33 votes in the negative, House Bill number 85, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 118, Maryland Money Transmission Act, Definition of Money Transmitter, Alteration.
House Bill number 118 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 118, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 135, Economic Development Tax Increment Financing Non-Contiguous Areas.
House Bill 135 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative and 10 votes in the negative, House Bill number 135, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading calendar number 17. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 17, Estates and Trusts, Venue for Administrative and Judicial Probate and Application of Inheritance Tax.
House Bill number 17 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 17, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 431, Real Property, Recordation and Printing of Subdivision, Plats, Alterations.
House Bill 431 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 120 votes in the affirmative and 8 votes in the negative, House Bill number 431, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 485, State Board of Professional Landscape Architects, Revisions.
House Bill 485 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 485, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 487, Maryland Technology Development Corporation Investments, Alterations.
House Bill 487 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Third reader, I'm allowed to get up. Is there a floor leader on this bill?
There always is a floor leader.
Delegate Shi. So I had some questions in committee, and I'm hoping that.
Madam Speaker.
Yes,
I
go ahead.
apologize.
It's okay.
May
Madam
I
Speaker.
Yes.
use her? Okay.
Yes.
My colleague from Montgomery County, I apologize.
Yeah, you pronounced my last name correctly, so thank you for that. It's a hard one.
I did.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right. It's because I care. You know that. So I had some questions, and I just want to make sure I can get it clarified so there's no confusion on the floor.
Okay.
The question that I had, the concern that I had is where TEDCO gets its money,
yeah,
taxpayer dollars. 95% of where they get their money is from the Maryland taxpayer. And so my concern in committee was that, is there a scenario in which TEDCO, using taxpayer dollars, are now able to invest in Maryland companies that are essentially getting out of Maryland, right? Because I think the way I understand this bill is it would give some more flexibility, right? There's some requirements that you can only invest in companies that have X amount of Maryland employees. And this, as I understand it, would allow them to invest in Maryland companies that are buying companies outside of Maryland. You know, and what I want to make sure is that they're not doing that for the purpose of leaving Maryland. So if you could just clarify that this bill would not enable TEDCO to invest in companies that are leaving our state.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a valid concern. Actually, this bill addresses your concern by making sure it would not happen. Because right now, we don't have a very clearly defined due process. So let's say TEDCO, which acts as Maryland's investment arm that invests equity. They are the equity investor in very promising early stage companies, right? To help them commercialize and go to market. And when companies become successful, sometimes they inadvertently get disqualified because they have employees that don't live in Maryland, which will make them not qualify, right? And other criteria that they no longer meet. So this bill would, one, authorize TEDCO to disinvest, to divest its investment, but also to do it in an orderly way, which is why the AG recommended that TEDCO develops the process so we wouldn't be challenged by the companies in court, so to speak.
So is it fair to say that this bill would be a better steward of Maryland taxpayer dollars?
Absolutely.
And then also this bill would not incentivize us investing in companies that are leaving Maryland?
Right, it's just the opposite.
All right, so
Thank
with that
you.
clarification, I'm going to vote agreeing on the bill. I appreciate
you.
it. My good friend from Montgomery County.
Wonderful, thank you.
The clerk will call the roll, please.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 487, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My apologies. I didn't realize there was such a fee increase with House Bill 431. A vote change to the nay.
Okay. Any other vote changes? Recognizing the minority whip.
Explaining, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it, but I think the fee, yeah.
No, we voted already. No.
All right.
No. Someone can give him a call, but no. You want to give him a call and we'll deal with it in the next calendar. Okay? You can stretch your legs and go over there. Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Same thing, vote change 431 in the red. Thanks.
Okay. Recognizing the delegate from Carroll.
431 to red, please. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate for Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 498 to red. 498 to red.
All right. Any other vote changes? You stretch your legs enough? Okay. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
I'm going to go red on 431. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Cecil.
Ditto, red on 431. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Red on 431, Madam Speaker, please.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to, if I may, Minority Leader, Mr. Minority Leader, your legs are stretched enough already. They're gonna you're gonna reach the ceiling. Okay. Listen, we can come back to it later at the end of the calendar, okay? You can reach people, call them. All right. Let's do House third reading calendar number 18. The clerk will read the bill. The first bill, please.
House Bill 53, Criminal Law, Non-Domesticated Animal Prohibitions, Alterations.
All right. Let's pay attention so that we know what we're voting for. House Bill number 53 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 33 votes in the negative, House Bill 53, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 154, Open Meetings Act, County Boards of Education, Enhanced Requirements, Local Boards of Education, Transparency Act.
House Bill 154 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill 154, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 351, Constitutional Rights, Violations, and Digital Unmasking.
House Bill 351 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Could the floor leader rise?
Floor leader.
Thank you.
She's here to the right, my right.
Can you tell me what the purpose of this bill is?
The purpose of this bill is creating the equivalent of a 1983 action under Maryland law. So 1983 allows Marylanders to sue local and state officials for violating the Constitution. This allows Marylanders to sue federal officials for violating the U.S. Constitution. And, and also it provides the ability for Attorney General, State Prosecutor, and State's Attorneys to assist in obtaining the identity of the official who would be the subject of the complaint.
So I had some concerns over there. I appreciate it. Thank you for your feedback on it. On the bill, Madam Speaker. What this bill allows you to do was simply filing a complaint of a federal officer. It allows for data collection. And I'm going to turn to page 4 of the bill. And it allows on line 11 a device called a Stingray data. Now, if you don't know what that is, and of course I didn't know what that was until about yesterday when I started researching it, what it allows is a fake cell phone tower to be set up so your phone attaches to it. And it connects at 2G, I believe. And it gets all kinds of data, your individual ID number, any type of metadata, any type of text message that you might have sent via SMS that wasn't encrypted. And the other thing that it does that I think is really interesting, it sets up Dragnet up. Because if you're like the grandmother dropping their kid off, or you're a jogger going down the street, or you're the Amazon driver just driving past this, it also captures your data. Now, in the bill, it talks about on page 4, line 25, it's set up to gather and retain as much identifying data as possible. We're capturing all this data from people that did nothing wrong. And then you look and say, well, what are we going to do with that data? Well, I don't see any provision in the bill to delete that data, ever. It's hard to believe that the same people that will vote against voter ID are willing to pass this into law. We should be renaming this the bill of it's like the Maryland State of Police KGB Act, 2026. We're going to collect this data for the purposes of identifying, doxing, and obstructing federal law enforcement when they're doing their job. And then allow for searchable results, GPS data, and facial recognition for the purpose of what? Identifying, doxing, intimidating, and obstructing federal law enforcement. This bill's a tragedy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
If I may make a few points. One, these are all existing law enforcement technologies that are used right now, or could be, if investigating a crime involving an Amazon driver, or the jogger, or all the other people you described. This law would actually not allow the technology to be used against anyone except a federal official for the sole purpose of identifying who they are. That is all. It does not change the parameters, the guidelines, the constitutional limitations about their use. All of those remain in place, but it allows just the identifying information. Again, creating no new technologies. These are technologies used by law enforcement all the time, pursuant to the laws and case law and statutes that we have created. We are allowing them to be used for the very limited purpose of identifying the person who violated the Constitution, and so that citizens of Maryland can seek redress against them. Thank you.
Okay. Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And colleagues, I appreciate the line of questioning that we just heard, but let's remember the context again that's going on, why this bill is happening. You have a situation where we are about to have federal agents descending, many of them descending on our state. There are hundreds of thousands of ready-to-eat meals being procured, $150 million in AR-15s and tear gas, record numbers of this procurement happening at this very moment. Multiple offices, detention centers, and warehouse facilities being proposed in our state. And so what we're witnessing, both here in Maryland right now and in other states, tons of court orders being ignored, federal court orders. I think if you believe that any of this activity is going to ramp up here, I think it is a very fair process that we are setting up here to ensure that our residents can have some measure of recourse to know who to sue, just to know who to sue. We have a court case, actually, just came down very recently in West Virginia, where someone was challenging their detention, and they went at the very heart of these matters. How do you even know who to sue to challenge these processes? How do you know how to sue if they're not only they're anonymizing themselves with masks, their supervisors, their agency is saying they're not going to comply with orders to help identify these people for proper rule of law and accountability. And it's not limited to ICE or Border Patrol or Homeland Security. I quipped only half-jokingly in committee that you might have more of a concern about ATF, the IRS, Treasury, or any number of other agencies, and this would apply equally to all of them. So any of these situations may give our residents and citizens, to be clear, some measure of remedy here. And I'll give you one line from this recent ruling in West Virginia. When authority is no longer traceable, it is no longer a legitimate exercise on behalf of the people. So again, this bill requires court order to access this data. Nobody's being doxxed. It's just being held securely. It's going to be reviewed by prosecutors in this state before it goes anywhere. The same ones we choose to allow them to exercise their discretion every single day as we trust them to enforce the laws of this state and the Constitution. So we unfortunately are in a situation where we have to protect ourselves from people who are choosing to ignore federal court orders and issue illegal orders, putting their employees in a very bad state. And I feel bad that that's what's going on, but they are absolutely getting bad advice, legally or policy-wise, from their higher-ups, giving them illegal instructions, like they can kick down your door and enter your private residence, citizen or not, without a warrant. That is not the law. That cannot be done by a legal memo, and you better believe that's going to lead to lawsuits. It should. Why shouldn't that lead to lawsuits if that's happening to our residents? First Amendment violations, Second Amendment violations, freedom of assembly, being forced to quarter troops on your gas station parking lot. Every one of these are constitutional violations that our businesses, our citizens, our residents, all of them should be afforded at a minimum due process and to know who to sue. That is what this bill does.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the lady from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the words of my colleague from the Judiciary Committee. We do know who to sue. There's already a remedy. In fact, we're taking the federal remedy we have right now and we're putting it into state law. You sue the government. That's who you sue. You don't need the individual person's name. In fact, you might not even be able to get that from the cell phone data. Chances are the cell phones they're being issued are government-issued cell phones and not even connected to their names. This is nothing but a fishing expedition. And on the topic of all of the ready-made meals and the investment in new ICE in this state. You'll remember just a few short weeks ago, I reminded you, if you continue to pass bills that undermine the safety of our state and our country, and continue to attack our individual jurisdictions' ability to remove people who are committing crimes either here or abroad, and they are also here illegally, we will be dealing with exactly that. It wasn't that I was psychic, it's obvious. So we have, in fact, invited the federal government to have to increase their presence in our state, and now we are wailing about how it has actually occurred. And so we are passing even more bills that will likely be struck down as unconstitutional. Sometimes it feels like the JV League. We do this all the time. I almost feel bad for the Attorney General for having to consistently defend bills that he knows is impossible, but I actually don't. But we should stop because it's taxpayer money. So here we are, we've made our bed, now we're laying in it, we're crying because it's itchy and sandy, and we should have stopped eating in our bed. God bless.
Okay. Recognizing the young lady from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's been an honor to be part of this body working on bills this session for affordability, accountability, and opportunity. And I am thrilled to be voting yes on this bill, which is clearly about accountability as part of that package. Part of what's in this bill is the No Kings Act, which I was proud to bring into this, and I appreciate the committee incorporating it in, and it serves as a really good partner with the unmasking. And in fact, the two together are crucial at this point in time. I think what we're seeing right now is just the first stages of what an authoritarian takeover looks like. And it starts with targeting the most vulnerable people. It starts with violating the constitutional rights of the most vulnerable people. And if we as state legislatures don't stand up when we see those first steps, second steps of violation of constitutional rights, both because we need to protect the most vulnerable people in our state, but also because without the accountability, without holding the officers and the agencies accountable, the authoritarian government continues until nobody has any rights left across our state and across our country. So I'm proud to be voting yes on this bill. I'm proud to be part of Maryland, where we protect the vulnerable people and we recognize what authoritarianism looks like when it's taking over, and we stop it in its tracks. Madam Speaker, I'll be voting yes.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 38 votes in the negative, House Bill 351, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Will the clerk please read the next bill?
House Bill 1017, Correctional Services, Private Immigration Detention Facilities, Zoning Requirement.
House Bill 1017 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1017, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1018, Correctional Services, Correctional Facilities, and Immigration Detention Facilities, Minimum Mandatory Standards.
House Bill number 1018 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to begin by saying that, House Bill 431 does not impose any fees on anything or increase any fees. I'm not sure how relevant that is to House Bill 1018, but I just want to make sure everybody knows, sometimes bills get amended, the fiscal note is not exactly up to date. Just saying, we've all been here for a while. In a more serious vein, I promised you all yesterday, I like to be a person who keeps their promises. I told you, keep you, waiting on the edge of your seat for the next episode of How the Ice Turns. And here we are. We do have a letter that relates to this bill in particular from the Office of the Attorney General. And as most letters from the Office of the Attorney General, and
I totally respect this because I think good lawyers tend to do this. No one can predict with 100% absolute certainty what a court will do unless there is a clear case of a prior precedent on all fours, meaning that it's completely the same situation, the same facts, the same analysis. Well, then, yeah, attorneys can give you a pretty good prediction of what courts will do. But this is a area of evolving law, emerging law. I don't think there's a clear, direct precedent one way or the other about doing things that this bill does. But I do think it's important to understand the interpretation of the people who we charge to make these analyses of constitutionality and to eventually defend the bills that we pass. We all go away and we go home and we put up signs for our reelection and we go to fundraisers and we go to chicken dinners, and the laws remain and the lawyers have to defend them. We don't have to do that. And so the letter from the Attorney General's office suggests, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, HB 1018 is not clearly unconstitutional, but there is a significant chance that at least portions of it could not be enforced against immigration detention facilities, especially facilities run by ICE as opposed to a private operator. And that's my primary focus here. We didn't talk today about the last bill that related to private facilities and individual local jurisdictions' ability to regulate those private facilities under their zoning codes, or even the provisions that relate in this legislation to the ability of the government to regulate a private facility. My friend from Montgomery County, we spoke about this a little bit last night. I know he's aware of this letter at this point in time. He cited a few cases from the West Coast. All of those cases involve the interpretation of state regulations to private run facilities, not direct entities of the federal government. In particular, the Attorney General's office tells us, I do not think the state could require an immigration detention facility, public, federal or private, to close or cease operations. I am sure that is extremely disappointing to 101, 102 of you in this room, because that is clearly the intent of all of this legislation and the constant weekly drumbeat of anti-ICE bills is that you do not want ICE to operate in the state of Maryland to the greatest extent possible. And as I've said on many times, I'm very, very sorry, you cannot do that. Don't have the power, don't have the control. You got to run for Congress, you got to go to DC, you got to make a law, you got to say they can't open any more detention facilities. Can't do it here in the state of Maryland. It's very clear. Furthermore, the Attorney General goes on to say, the federal government itself would be immune from any portion that actually controls ICE detention operation or imposes a significant burden, which is a fact-specific inquiry. So I don't want anyone in this room to think that you have the power and the ability to do the things that you're telling the activists and the advocates out on Lawyers Mall that you're going to do, because you don't. It's not offensive. It's not designed in a critical way. It's just a reality of how the law works, how the country works, and how our role works. And it's why we oppose this bill. The federal government has already purchased and has spent over $100 million of taxpayer money to construct, to retrofit, to enable a facility to exist in Williamsport, Maryland. People don't like that. I get it. Some people don't like that. But I ask you, and this bill is in part a response to that. If we want to commend the Attorney General, who just wrote a letter, his subordinates just wrote a letter that said we cannot close down ICE facilities, we cannot control them, but he's suing in federal court to stop the ICE facility from coming. That is cognitive dissonance on an off-the-charts level. I have an Attorney General opinion that says we can't stop ICE from operating here, we can't regulate their independently owned, federal government-owned facilities, but I got an Attorney General who's a good man, but is a politician, that says, hold on, I'll go to court and file against my own opinion, essentially. And I ask you this, what is the solution, barring the non-reality that we're going to end ICE and we're going to end immigration enforcement in this country? People are going to get picked up in the state of Maryland today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, for violations of federal immigration law. I hope that the vast majority of those individuals are the types that all of us should agree that they are serious criminals, that they are individuals who have no place on our streets, no matter what your perspective is on the nation's immigration laws. Some of them are not going to fit that category. Some of them are going to be people who we could all objectively argue, hey, I'm not worried about them. They're in violation of federal immigration law, but they don't pose a risk. But they're still going to get picked up, many of them, because they are in violation of federal law that we're not in charge of. And my question becomes this: where do they go? Where do they go? None of us like or should like what's going on with the media reports about the status of a detention facility in the city of Baltimore, where individuals are being held that have been picked up by ICE for a variety of reasons and are being held subject to potential deportation, as is lawful under federal law. Can't change it. So that facility, that's not good enough, and it's not good enough. It wasn't designed for this. None of us like it. We hear these terrible stories of someone who gets picked up, and they're involved, and ICE says, we're going to subject you to deportation, and they live here in Maryland, and they've got family here, and friends here, and supporters here. Maybe their lawyers are here. And the federal government, well, we don't have a place to keep you here in Maryland nearby your family or your friends or your supporters or your lawyers. So you're on a plane, and tomorrow you're in Spokane, Washington, or you're in Opelousas, Louisiana. Bye. Is that a good idea? I don't know if that's a good idea. If my loved one was involved in an immigration proceeding and they took them and they lawfully detained them, and they said, guess what? We don't have space for you in the state of Maryland to process your case while you go through the legal hurdles to determine whether or not you get to stay or go. I'm going to put you in Opelousas, Louisiana. I've been to Opelousas. I don't know about that. That's a long way away for your spouse or your friends to come. So what is the solution, or part of the solution? We'll construct a facility, a modern facility, a large facility that's not overcrowded in Maryland, an hour or two away from individuals who may be swept up in immigration enforcement in Maryland. And what is the response of our General Assembly? No. No. Being a Republican in this legislature, sometimes this may sound strange to say, but no cannot always be the answer. Okay? You can't be red on everything. You can't say no to everything. At some point in time, reasonable people have to work out reasonable solutions to real-world problems. And this bill is not going to do that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
welcome.
Colleagues, just a couple points of factual clarification about this bill. It does not attempt to shut down any federal immigration detention facility. There's actually not a bill we're passing on the floor that will shut down a federally owned immigration detention facility. But I've been following very closely what's been the conversation in Washington County and what's going on with that particular facility. And this bill does attempt to pose some very basic questions. This is no longer an immigration issue. This is an issue of basic human rights. A giant facility, this is over 50 acres, 825,000 square feet. It is a huge facility being proposed out there. And when you look at the hundreds of thousands of MRE ready-to-eat, shelf-stable meals that they're ordering, and again, the $150 million of tear gas and ARs that the feds are ordering, there are dozens of brand new $50,000 SUVs parked at the Baltimore and Howard County ICE field offices. They're trying to open a new law office in Hyattsville to expand their operations in the state. All of this is coming. And to my friend from Harford County, these procurements began long before we started moving bills to constrain ICE during this session. These plans have been underway for quite some time, and Maryland is the first staging ground for this, with the Washington County mass warehouse being proposed, first in the nation that they're trying to get online. They are rushing. They hid the actual address of the facility to avoid triggering historic review, because it is, in fact, the actual address is next to a historic facility. They've extended the timeline for the state and locals to respond to this as a result. So there are some very legitimate questions for the residents of Washington County about what's going on here. Here's another one. Is there enough water and sewer in that facility for 1,500 people? It's an open question. I saw one of the Washington County commissioners was talking about, well, maybe they can just bring bottled water over for that. Again, this is a humanitarian question, and that is not an acceptable way of detaining people. So the state absolutely has an interest in ensuring that basic standards are being met. We don't want sewage seeping into the ground there if they don't have adequate sewer or septic to again handle 1,500 people. I sure wouldn't want to live near that facility if these kinds of concerns are not being addressed. And that's all that this bill is trying to do. But since we're talking about costs and things of this nature, I do have to remind folks about where this all came from. Where is this money coming from? $100 million, that's just for the warehouse property. That doesn't count retrofitting it, all of the contractors, the operations. Those of us who talk to the appropriators are certainly aware that the operations are going to be a huge ongoing expense. Are these even criminals? The numbers suggest not. 60% of these people are non-criminals. So you keep pointing to the 40%. This is a huge cost to move 60% non-criminals. I understand some of you might think that mass deportation program is just swell policy. Okay, well, where are we paying for it? Let's go back to history. It was actually, June or July of 2025, just months ago, that what I call the big bad bill passed. You call it something else, I call it the big bad bill. That thing, man, time flies in politics, but let's remember what it did. It's cutting health care in rural Maryland. I was out visiting the Eastern Shore Hospital, Tidal Health, weeks after that bill passed. 19% across the board cut is what the administrators there told me they're facing. 19% across the board cut. Western Maryland, same concerns, and that's a shared hospital system with the West Virginia that I mentioned. A lot of the local politicians out there love that. Are they aware that their residents are having food stamp cuts, they're having their Medicaid cut, they're having increased Obamacare premiums, ACA, which is leading thousands of them to lose their insurance? And yes, this is happening in Washington County, in Allegheny County, in Wycomico, in Worcester, in Hartford, in Cecil, in Frederick. All of these people are going to have people with escalating health care costs, uninsured rate going up in those places. Where is this happening? It was the same bill, the big bad bill, the one that allows a $100 million warehouse to suddenly come out of nowhere to detain non-criminals. That $100 million, guess what? Your rural health care cuts are paying for that. They are paying for that. So here we are at this last stage of the game. No, we're not even trying to stop it. You want that? Fine. You guys can continue voting for that. We're asking a much simpler question. Do you even have water for that many people? Come on, guys.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the remarks from both the minority and the majority leader. I just want to bring the debate back to two very simple things. First, the U.S. Constitution. I've got my own letter. Mine is actually a little bit better because it was, I think, written yesterday after the committee's amendments were adopted on second reader. And the minority leader described it accurately for the most part. He's right that the AG has determined that the bill is not clearly unconstitutional. He's right that the AG's office also said that this is a developing area of the law and that a lot is uncertain right now. One thing he did not mention is that the AG also, at least in my letter, we do have slightly different letters, so I do not want to say that he is misstating his own letter. But in my letter, at least, on page 5, it says that it's possible that some of the provisions of the bill could be directly applied to ICE itself, the federal government itself, specifically as it relates to inspections and minimum health and safety standards. But don't just take my word for it, please. Don't also just take the AG's word for it. The Baltimore Sun wrote a great piece yesterday, hardly, a liberal rag anymore, but wrote a great piece yesterday about this bill, and they tracked down 2 law professors, one of whom is a member of the Arch Conservative Federalist Society, and they couldn't get either law professor to say that the bill was unconstitutional. In fact, one of the professors said that because nothing in the bill targets the federal government, that it could reasonably be viewed by a court as, quote unquote, a general health and safety rule, rather than an effort to restrict the federal government specifically. And that's what this is. Let's return to what this bill is actually about. It's about accountability, sure, for all jails in the state. But fundamentally, this is about affordability. This is a pocketbook bill. We're protecting Marylanders' pocketbooks with this bill because we're ensuring that failures inside a detention center don't leave the fence line and become problems for taxpayers and for ratepayers. This is not partisan. Republican Senator Roger Wicker just sent a letter to Kristi Noem a couple weeks ago. He said that detention facilities impose substantial and specialized infrastructure demands. And if that's true in Mississippi, that's true in Maryland too. When facilities fail to meet certain standards, the consequences don't end at the jail. They show up in our local ERs, our EMS response times, our utility bills, and in our county budgets. And that's why Republican officials in both Howard and Baltimore counties, just in the last couple weeks, have voted in favor of transparency and accountability for detention centers run by ICE. And it's also why this bill was voted out of committee on a bipartisan 15-3 vote. So this bill is not about fighting the federal government. It's about standards, it's about transparency, and it's about protecting taxpayers. If a facility operates in Maryland, any facility run by anyone, it should meet Maryland's basic minimum health and safety standards. Public safety, Madam Speaker, should not be optional. Accountability should not be partisan. And taxpayers should not be the backstop for preventable failures. I'll be voting green. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
My friend from Montgomery County, my counterpart, is the majority leader. He's a good man. But I think his argument illustrates exactly what I'm talking about. 90% of his argument is about, I want to change the immigration laws of the state, and I don't like what the Trump administration does, and I don't want to build these detention centers, which you're not in control of. I have so much respect for the people in this room, my colleagues. I just want you to look in the mirror and when you get up in the morning and be honest with yourselves. I'm not in charge. I'm not a United States Congressman, a United States Senator, the United States President. I'm not the governor of the state of Maryland. I'm not. I'm a participant in a system. I have a role, a very important role, but it is a limited role, and I cannot turn every day into everything. I think we'd be better off. I think we'd achieve more, truly, if we focused on that. But I'd pull back to this. We've got differing letters. I don't think they're too much different. We've got an attorney general who his subordinates are writing in letters that we don't think we can do this, but he's suing to stop it from coming. I mean, you can't say, we're not trying to stop the federal government from putting a detention facility here when your attorney general just filed a suit to stop them from putting a facility here. And you can't say that the bill does not have any provisions that would prevent the facility from coming, because in the letter, it says very clearly, the provisions of the bill, this is a letter from the Attorney General, that authorize the Maryland Commission on Correctional Standards to order, quotes, the immediate cessation of operation of the immigration detention facility, end quotes, could substantially interfere with ICE detention operations if attempted. These provisions could require abandonment of facilities and or prohibit ICE's preferred contractors from running detention facilities. Both ICE and federal contractors, this isn't all bold, I think they mean you to take particular attention to it. Both ICE and federal contractors operating immigration detention facilities would likely be immune from such provisions. What's the bill do? Nothing. Nothing. It's a virtue signal. It's great. You're going to tell people that you did something, but you didn't. It also says other provisions in HB 1018, such as those authorizing facility inspections, audits, access to records, requiring facilities to make certain certifications, and comply with the minimum health and safety standards, fall somewhere in the middle. It's difficult to give a definitive answer. In my view, most of these are likely enforceable against a private facility. I think that could be fair, subject to the federal contract requirements, but it is less likely they could be enforced against an ICE-operated facility. So the bill imposes standards that we can't enforce against ICE. The bill says if you don't follow our standards, we're going to close you down, which we can't do. Come on. That makes absolutely no sense. And also, I think it's important to note in the research that this fine assistant attorney general did for us, determined that ICE's own performance-based national detention standards indicate a desire to comply with state laws concerning facility conditions, and ICE already requires facilities to do some of the things that will be required under this bill. ICE owns their own property. They own it. It's federal land. When you walk across the street in downtown Annapolis and you enter or you attempt to enter the United States Naval Academy, you are no longer on the land subject to the laws of the state of Maryland. When the shooter came, or they thought it was a shooter, it turned out not to be a shooter a few months ago at the Naval Academy, it was not the Maryland State Police. They have their own police. I live a block from there. They have their own police. Why is that? Because they're the federal government and they control their own land. Because if we stopped having that, then I guess maybe when other federal institutions or other people were in charge of the federal government, states like Alabama or Louisiana or Mississippi or Arkansas could stand up and say, we're not going to follow your federal laws here in our state. They tried that a long time ago, horribly. And thank God that failed. States can't control the federal government. We have to acknowledge that.
Recognizing the gentleman from Washington County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I hope you'll indulge me for a minute to give a bit of a local perspective as to why I support HB 1018. And that is, this bill is going to affect Washington County probably more than almost anywhere else in the state. And what I want to talk about is not immigration enforcement. Let me be very clear about that. What it is about what happens to our taxpayers when something goes terribly wrong at one of these massive jails and we're left to clean up the mess. We've heard a couple times that we're seeing a plan to build an 800,000 square foot facility in Washington County, right outside of Hagerstown in a town called Williamsport, Maryland. Now, to give you guys a little perspective, this facility is expected to hold up to 1,500 people. The town of Williamsport, Maryland has a population of 2,000 people. Wright Road, where this facility is actually being built, is a small 2-lane road. And the county has identified that that's going to take $1.5 million improvement, $1.5 million improvement just to get that road up to the par of where it needs for the traffic. But more importantly, water. That warehouse right now is appropriated to have 6 EDUs, which is equivalent to, 800, 900 gallons of water. The conservative estimate of how much water that facility is actually going to need is like 93,000 gallons of water a day. So quite a contrast in infrastructure to what we've planned for and what's actually going to be needed. But more specific to what this bill actually is attempting to do is that Williamsport, the town of Williamsport, does not have its own fire, police, EMS. They rely on the county. The Washington County Sheriff's Office, the last time I checked, it may be a little more now, but the last time I checked, has about 110 field officers to cover the entire county 24/7. Our county fire and EMS is primarily volunteer. And of that, the closest to this facility, the wonderful company 2, which is a Williamsport volunteer fire EMS company, they're one of our bigger fire and EMS companies, but they only have 8 EMT/paramedics stationed at that station. So the other thing is our hospital. Our only hospital in Washington County, Meritus Medical Center, they have a capacity of about 300 beds. And at any given time, it hovers between 90 to 100% capacity. And we have wait times in our ER of over 4 hours is the average wait time of our ER. So what I want to get through on this is we already have 3 state prisons in Washington County. And sounds like we've got another one coming. And we cannot, our community cannot handle the burden if we have a health or a safety failure at one of these detention centers. So that is why I stand up to support HB 1018.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I wanted to at least address a couple things that I heard. We heard affordability. All right, it's a good buzzword for this year. So what you heard from one of the floor speakers was that there's an issue with affordability and having to create these facilities, but this body banned local jails from being able to facilitate these transfers. So let me get this straight. You're concerned about affordability. You're concerned about the fact that the federal government has to build facilities, but you banned the state government or local jurisdictions from using their own facilities. So congratulations, you've created that affordability issue. That's point one. Point two, we heard from the majority leader about, they're packing MREs and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and equipment. Well, congratulations. You've made Maryland a sanctuary state. Congratulations. All right? So we heard in Minnesota, you know, we don't want issues in the streets. We don't want these transfers in the streets. We don't want chaos in the streets. Nobody does. We don't. But you're creating that environment. You're creating that environment. You're telling all local law enforcement to have nothing to do with the federal government in any scenario. You're putting in bills after bills, and then now, to the lady from Harford County's point, you're mad that the federal government may increase immigration enforcement in our state. Well, congratulations. You created that environment too. We heard about the most vulnerable. I got to tell you, that was a doozy. Speech about they're coming for the most vulnerable. Well, let me tell you what was in the news yesterday and across all the major news outlets. It says, man deported after raping roommate in Frederick County. So I'm going to read this here. This was in all the major news outlets. It says, 2 years ago, after immigration authorities say Ruben Alonzo Hernandez Lanes entered the United States illegally from El Salvador, Frederick County investigators say he raped and assaulted one of his roommates inside a Frederick County apartment. Hernandez entered the country illegally in 2021, and he held a lady down against her wills, and he told her to her face, "You won't be saved," and then repeated to sexually assault her for 10 minutes. Is this the vulnerable population you're defending? Right? Is this who we're defending? Is this the hill you're dying on? This is in Frederick County. This is in my jurisdiction. This was yesterday. So I don't like the fact that the majority of the individuals in this room are creating a scenario in which the federal government has to do more. I don't like the fact that the majority of individuals in this room are making Maryland a sanctuary state, so the federal government has to do more, which we don't want to see. And I don't like the fact that you're sticking up for people like this. There has to be a reasonable coordination between the state of Maryland and our federal partners to address monsters like this. The majority of people in this room, and I hate to say it, I feel like you're making my community less safe. You're making my community less safe. So for those reasons, and like all these other bills, I'll be voting against this bill because I'm tired of the virtue signaling. There has to be reasonable policies to address individuals that commit violent crimes in our communities and to coordinate with our federal partners if they also happen to be here illegally. The solution is not to just let them go in our streets because the feds will have to come in and increase operations. We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want what we saw in Minnesota. We don't want that. But the majority folks in this room are causing chaos. Your policies are creating chaos in our state because you refuse to allow, in some cases, a coordination with the federal government. So for those reasons, I'm voting against this bill. Thank you,
The
Madam
clerk
Speaker.
will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to explain my green vote on this bill, the debate got heated, it got interesting, but in some ways this bill is a lot more boring than the debate. This bill has nothing to do with violent offenders, it has nothing to do with chaos, it has very little, if anything, to do with these other bills that we're debating. Immigration's a fun issue to talk about, I get it. ICE is firing up communities across our state on the left, right, and center. This bill simply applies minimum health and safety standards to all jails in the state. That's it. It's not about violent criminals. It's not about letting people out. I want violent criminals out of communities too. I've got 2 little boys. I don't want people to be raped and murdered, but that's not this bill. This bill makes a very, very simple statement that if you want to operate a jail in Maryland, no matter who you are, state, local, federal, private entities, you should just have to abide by basic standards. You should allow inspections. If nurses see something wrong in a facility, they should have to report it. If a security guard sees something wrong, they should report it. These are not crazy ideas. This has been the rule in our own state and local facilities for decades. We're simply applying that writ large to every facility in the state. I'll be voting green. In fact, I already have.
Recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I serve as a Personnel Committee Chair for the last couple of years, actually on a bipartisan basis. Many of you were involved in these hearings where we had a lot of conversations with the Department of Corrections, and we dug into a lot of the personnel issues. So part of the reason that I am voting green on this, and I'm proud to vote green on it, and you kind of heard this echoed by my good colleague from Montgomery County as well, is this to me is about accountability to make sure that some of our hardest working state employees have the protections that they need in the facilities that they are, frankly, often risking their lives in, to make sure that they've got safe workplaces, that they've got protections when they see things going wrong, whether it's at a state, a local, or yes, a federal facility. We want to make sure that our hardworking corrections employees, who again do some of the hardest jobs in our government, are protected and doing the jobs in the way that they need to. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Seeing the gentleman from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, the reason I have a green vote and the majority of this body does on this board is because this bill is very much about Maryland standards. It's about ensuring that we have values for what we want to conduct in our state. You know, I'm getting really tired of being lectured about what we here in the majority are doing when it comes to immigration, as if we started this deportation assault, as if we are the ones who day one had a plan to, you know, terrorize our neighbors in our neighborhoods. This is response to what is happening at the federal level. This is us as Maryland coming together to say, no, we want to make sure that if you're going to come in our state, you're going to open in a facility, that there are certain standards. Like, let's make sure there's enough bathrooms for folks. Let's ensure that the water and sewer is adequate. We just heard from the gentleman from Montgomery about making sure our workers here in our states, our neighbors, our Marylanders have facilities that they can be comfortable and safe in to work in. This bill is about Maryland standards and values, and a green vote on this is making sure that we have the strongest, safest standards for doing work here in this state. And so I appreciate that, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the young lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
It is about our values, and I'm going to read you something that used to be Democrat values from 1995, Bill Clinton's State of the Union. He was disturbed by the large number of illegal aliens in our nation. Jobs they hold that could be held by citizens. Public services they use impose a tax burden on our taxpayers. That is why our administration, again, Bill Clinton saying this, that is why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders by hiring a record number of border guards, by deporting twice as many illegal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by banning welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In Clinton's budget, he says he will do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens convicted of crimes, to better ID illegal aliens in the workspace. He said, "We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in the recent years. We must do more to stop it." That's Bill Clinton, 1995 State of the Union. So these are values that we all used to hold. I am red.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my green vote, you know, we are a nation and a state of human beings. And the chaos around immigration is Washington's problem. It has been a bipartisan problem of Washington, D.C. for decades. They have failed us. And where they have failed us is by not fixing our broken immigration system. But what this bill does is it sets clear standards for the state of Maryland, for our employees who will work in corrections, for the people who will have to be housed there, to make sure they have basic human dignity. And the lawsuit that has been filed by the Attorney General is because the federal government violated their own federal policies. So both things can be true at the same time. We can regulate any facility that is going to house and detain people against their will. It has to have human dignity. You have to be able to go to the bathroom. That current facility has bathroom space for four 4 bathrooms. They did not go through the EPA process, the Administrative Proceeding Act, and that is why our Attorney General did the right thing and sued the federal government, because we have to hold them accountable to follow their own policies and procedures. So I'm proud to vote green, because when the federal government fails our citizens, we have to step in and protect them. Thank you,
The
Madam
clerk will
Speaker.
take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, House Bill 1018, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Vote change.
Thank you,
Let's
Madam-
start with the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House
You're
Bill
welcome.
4982 read.
Let's go to the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 53 to nay.
Let's go now to Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 284 to read.
Let's go to Baltimore County.
House Bill 498 to read.
Baltimore County.
Vote change 498 to read.
Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 154 to yea.
Any other vote changes? See none. I want to take a second to say thank you for the civil engagement on this body, and I really appreciate it, and so do the people in Maryland that we represent. Thank you so much. Let's go now. This ends the work at the desk, and we're going to start with appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The full committee will not meet, but please listen for subcommittee announcements.
Let's go next to economic matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Economic matters will begin bill hearings at 1 p.m. Please be on time, as we have 113 witnesses, and we'd like to be in there any longer than we need to be. Thank you.
You're welcome. Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will meet for bill hearings at 1 p.m.
Government, Labor, and Elections.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. GLE will meet at 1 p.m., emphasis on 1 p.m. And we will have a voting session tomorrow morning at 9:45 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health Committee will meet at 1:30 for bill hearings. Please listen for subcommittee announcements.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Judiciary will be meeting at 1 o'clock for bill hearings.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will meet at 1 p.m. for bill hearings in the Ways and Means Committee room.
Subcommittee announcements. Let's recognize the lady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The
You're welcome.
Education and Economic Development Subcommittee of Appropriations will be meeting at 1 p.m. in their Appropriations hearing room.
Let's recognize the lady here in the front from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Elder Care Subcommittee will be meeting 20 minutes after Florida Day.
The lady from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Non-Energy Utilities Subcommittee of the Environment and Transportation Committee will meet immediately following bill hearings virtually. Thank you.
Gentleman from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Transportation and Environment Subcommittee of Appropriations will meet at 1:30 in room 150.
The lady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Transportation Subcommittee of Environment and Transportation will meet today about 10 minutes after the Non-Utility Subcommittee. Stay tuned for text and email updates.
The gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Early Childhood and Special Education Subcommittee will meet at 12:30 via Zoom. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The lady from Montgomery.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Subcommittee on
welcome.
Corrections of the Government, Labor, and Elections Committee will be meeting at 3:30 today virtually.
The lady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health and Social Services Subcommittee on Appropriations will be meeting today at 1 p.m. in the joint hearing room for DDA budget.
Thank you. The gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Local
You're welcome.
Revenue Subcommittee of Ways and Means will be meeting today at 12:45. Thank you.
Any other subcommittee announcements? Seeing none, we're going to go on to delegation announcement, recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Montgomery County House delegation will meet tomorrow morning virtually at 9 a.m.
The lady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prince George's County House delegation will meet at 9 a.m. virtually tomorrow morning.
The gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Anne Arundel County delegation will meet tomorrow at 8:30 on Zoom. Please be on time. Thank you.
The gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Baltimore County delegation will meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Any other delegation? The delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Baltimore City House delegation will meet tomorrow morning, Friday, at 9 a.m. virtually. Thank you.
Any other delegation announcements? Yes, recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Eastern Shore
You're
delegation
welcome.
will be meeting at 9 a.m. Via Zoom tomorrow.
Any other delegation announcements? Seeing none, we're going to go now to caucus announcements. Seeing no caucus announcement, we're going now to the Black History moment that will be offered by the wonderful delegate from Baltimore County.
And my team. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon. For my people everywhere, lending their strength to the years, to the gone years and the now years and the maybe years, trying to fashion a better way from hypocrisy, from confusion and misunderstanding, trying to fashion a world that will hold all of the people, all of the faces, all of the Adams and Eves and their countless generations. Let a new earth rise. This poem by Margaret Walker, For My People, was one of the poems that resonated in the minds of African Americans during the 60s and 70s. Such was the case for a small group of 17 legislators in 1970 who were moved to form the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland. Roosevelt Duncan, Howard Pete Rawlins, and Norman V.A. Reeves proposed the idea to Black community leaders and activists, and my mom, I'm proud to say, was one of them. Delegate Arthur King, Prince George's County, became the first chairman, and Senator Verda Welcome from Baltimore, who was the first Black woman elected to the Senate, became the vice chair. This small group of people answered Margaret Walker's call to let a new earth rise. But that was only the beginning, because when those 17 began, they were a protest body, operating in a body that was overwhelmingly white. They didn't just want a seat at the table, but they wanted to fundamentally require how Maryland was to function. They focused on 3 pillars: survival and advancement, economic power, education, equity, and human rights. One of the early wins was the Minority Business Enterprise Act. That required a specific percentage of state set-asides to be awarded to minority-owned businesses. They tackled the HBCU parity initiative in the 70s. HBCUs were greatly underfunded. They fought to save UMES, Morgan State, from being taken over, absorbed, or closed. They forced the state to implement corrective measures to end an era of medical exploitation. And in their first decade, a bill was passed making cross-burning a felony. Open public accommodations laws passed ending Jim Crow laws in Maryland. In the early 1980s, they fought for redistricting patterns that allowed for more elections of Black delegates from Prince George's and Baltimore counties. Without those early initiatives and determination, we would not have the 66-member powerhouse that exists in Annapolis today. Colleagues, history is not a resting place, but a responsibility for further action. Those 17 broke the silence in 1970, setting the path for us who serve now, whether it is about economic justice and reparations, restorative justices and practices in schools, justice reform for adults and children, housing, education, health, small business practices, foster care reform, and so much more. Let me call their names: Clarence Blount, Robert Dalton, Lena Lee, Verda Welcome, Clarence Mitchell III, Floyd Adams, Eris T. Allen, Hildegard Boswell, Troy Braley, Joseph Chester Sr., Walter Dean, Isaiah Dixon, Calvin Douglas, John W. Douglas, Arthur King, Kenneth Webster, and yes, Frank Conaway Sr. Thank you, former Chair Wilkins, Chair Phillips, and members of the Black Caucus, for our work continues. Today, in this Black History moment, I, the caucus historian, salute the leaders and members of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, past and present. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Beautiful. Well done. Thank you. Personal or guest announcements.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the lady from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use delegates' names?
Permission granted.
Colleagues, please join me and my fellow District 16 delegates, Delegate Corman and Delegate Wallach, in welcoming, and sorry he went back to work, the doctor of the day, Dr. Brent Berger, who is an internist and has an office in Bethesda in the middle of our district. He's very excited that he got to hear health-related debate on the floor, so please give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome.
Madam
Recognizing
Speaker.
the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use the delegates' names?
Permission granted.
Thank you. We love welcoming most of you to our district for the legislative session every year. But tonight is District 30 night in Annapolis, so on behalf of Delegate Dana Jones, Delegate Seth Howard, and myself, please join us, unfortunately in the Senate, at 6 p.m. for District Night. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I rise today to recognize and have a warm welcome for the students that joined Hartford County from Hartford County Regional Association of Student Councils, who have joined us this morning. And these young leaders are here to advocate, to share their perspectives, and to thoughtfully express their concerns and their issues affecting our schools, our county, and the students across Maryland. Please give them, I'm not sure if any of them are still here in the galleries, but please help me give them a warm welcome for these exceptional young leaders. And they will be visiting a lot of our committees today, so please welcome them as well. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's, and then I'll come to Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last Thursday, 300 social work students attended the NASW Maryland Remote Student Advocacy Day, and today another 125 students are here for the NASW Maryland In-Person Student Advocacy Day. 10 of those students are in the gallery this morning representing social work students from Bowie State University, Coppin State University, Frostburg State University, Hood College, McDaniel College, Morgan State University, Salisbury University, the University of Maryland at Baltimore County, and the University of Maryland at Baltimore. Would you please join me in welcoming them?
Recognizing the, welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
There will be a meeting of the Karaoke Caucus tonight, so once you finish with District 30 night and stop by MBE night, make your way to 200 Taylor Avenue, and we will begin once we reach quorum. Thank you.
It's a busy evening. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Karaoke Caucus for reminding me that MBE night is tonight, beginning at 5 p.m. at the Westin, and following the MBE night official activities, there will be a reception. So please join us this evening at the Westin, Annapolis.
Thank you. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's, then Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There are or were visitors in the gallery today who are members of Win with Black Women, which is an organization that, among a lot of other great things, support black women running for elected office. So please help me welcome our friends from Win with Black Women.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank
Today's
you.
the Southern Maryland Day for Education. We had representatives and guys from St. Mary's College of Maryland, from Calvert County Public School System, and from the St. Mary's County School System, but they're all here, they're all gone, but some of them are wandering around, so if you see them, please say hi. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome. Any other personal or guest announcements? Seeing none, we're going to quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 126 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Friday, February 27th at 11 o'clock a.m. Legislative date February 21.
Great work, everyone. Have a blessed evening.